Lucius, released in 2012 for PC, sees you playing as the titular young boy who turns out to be the son of Lucifer and has you carrying out tasks befitting of your father's legacy. It was released to little fanfare, although did gain popularity and/or notoriety through being the subject of Let's Play videos, providing ample content thanks to some rather inventive scenarios which we will get into. The franchise eventually expanded into a trilogy and an 8-bit demake, so there's enough games here to take a look as part of the video game Odyssey series, so let's dive in. The Lucius series was developed by Finnish indie developer Shiver Games. They're best known for, well, the Lucius series. In fact, that's all they're known for. There's no other video games associated with them. There's no overview of the franchise we can go into this time, so let's just get straight into the games. Lucius was released in 2012 for PC. You play as Lucius, who was born on the 6th of June 1966. Yes, 666. 6. As we will see, this game has the subtlety of a housebreak to the face. Anyway, on his 6th birthday, yes, another 6, Lucifer appears to Lucius, revealing to be his true father, if the whole 666 thing didn't clue you in, and, starting off the game proper, provides a tutorial for playing, in which he instructs you to lock a maid in the freezer, and then padlock the door so she can't get out. Yep, as the son of Satan, we'll be bumping people off to satisfy our loving father. The next morning, Detective MacGuffin arrives to investigate the death.
MacGuffins?
Yes, MacGuffin. They actually named him after the trope. Like I said, subtlety of a housebreak. The game unfolds in the grounds of Lucius's family home, Dante Manor. Again, subtlety, housebreak, as each level has you tasked with killing another employee or family member that resides within. The game is, on the surface, a combination of the Omen films and the Hitman series of games, as you wander the mansion and try to figure out how to bump off the target of the chapter, chosen for you by Lucifer. Unlike Hitman though, there is only one way for you to kill the target, and you must find the correct item or sequence of events that allows you to pull it off. As such, it's perhaps more of a puzzle game, in which you must find the one solution to Lucifer's request. There is some freedom available to you, as you can explore more of the very large mansion as the game progresses, and you can do chores given to you by the residents to unlock items in your room, like the Ouija board, which can give you cryptic clues about what item you'll need to use in your murder. The issue with this is the game can be quite directionless about where you need to go or what you need to do. The Ouija board can give you a riddle about what item you need, but no hint as to where it is, and like I say, the mansion is bloody huge. You can also pick up items at any point during the game, but you'll have no idea when to use them, meaning you can be holding onto them for nearly the entire playthrough. The kills themselves are particularly gruesome and nasty, giving you more or less what you would want after setting them up, and paying homage to the horror film genre like you would imagine. The story gradually unfolds as the murdering continues, revealing the dark secrets of the family, but you have to wonder why, after a few people have been murdered, everyone else still stops at that mansion. If I worked there and 3 or 4 people had died in bizarre circumstances, I'd have noped out of that job right after the guy got his face melted off lighting his cigarette on the oven. In keeping with the game lacking any kind of subtlety, it does make an effort to make certain moments stand out, and not just the kills. In one chapter, you manage to stumble upon a couple having sex and have to take a picture to expose the sordid affair to one of the maids and frame her for the murders. It certainly keeps you on your toes, and it does feel rewarding getting a kill and witnessing the gruesome demise of someone. But once you've done it, there's no replayability, and there is only the one specific way to kill someone as mentioned. While the setting is well fleshed out, the game does have some flaws. The controls are a little clunky in certain places, the stealth sections do not work very well, but thankfully there are only a few of them. Eventually, you'll get access to a range of powers granted to you by Lucifer, such as telekinesis, mind control, and setting things on fire. The telekinesis is particularly awful to control, and also has limited use before its energy depletes, which leaves you fighting trying to do what you want it to. The game culminates in a final boss after you frame your not Lucifer dad for the murders by mind controlling him into killing your mother with a nail gun in the presence of MacGuffin. Yeah, this name goes places. The local priests turn up as the mansion is burning down to try and exorcise you or something, and you must defeat them before dealing with your not devil father. You'll have to charge up your powers by turning the crucifixes upside down and burning the priests alive with your powers. Your not Lucifer father returns to kill you, and you'll have to try and crush him with the chandelier. To be clear, this game is not designed for boss fights. This whole section is an absolute nightmare as you're trying to avoid the priests and Charles and use your powers, the controls for which are abhorrent at the best of times, as described earlier. If you manage to get through it, MacGuffin shows up just in time to shoot Charles Wagner and stop him killing you, taking you away from the horrific scene that you caused. Lucius is unapologetic in its inspirations and delivers a straightforward experience with no real surprises. While the game gives you a large setting to freely wander, those who are expecting something akin to the Hitman games, where you can find your own way to eliminate your target, will be disappointed. Lucius has a very linear solution to move the game forward, and is more akin to a puzzle game with free roaming elements. There's no replayability other than to do the optional chores if you miss them, and the game is pretty short, despite having over 15 people for you to murder. As mentioned at the start, the game came and went with little fanfare. Reviews were very middling, and the game did not get too much attention beyond its more over-the-top moments being the subject of YouTube videos. The second game emerged in 2015 as Lucius II, The Prophecy. Set immediately after the events of the first game, Lucius is taken to a hospital where, after the obviously shocking experience of seeing his whole family murdered and his home burned down, he is locked up for 6 months. After this time, 2 people are brought in rambling about a prophecy, one of them a nun, and Lucius knows that there is still work for him to do. He attacks the nun, but is dragged to shock therapy, where the employees meet their unfortunate yet perhaps justified end at trying to electrocute a child. I mean, even if he is the devil's son. Awakened with his powers partially restored, Lucius sets out to discover this prophecy and what the devil has in store. Meanwhile, MacGuffin is visited by Lucifer and is told he must protect Lucius, flipping his character from antagonist to ally. Starting the first level in the hospital, it's clear that the game attempts to expand in the direction players expected and wanted it to go, providing a more open-ended, open-world experience, as you are given objectives to kill certain people, but you are left to do it in a number of ways that the game introduces, including, but not limited to, electrifying pipes so any running water becomes deadly, poisoning coffee machines and donuts, exposing electrified wires, causing people to slip down elevator shafts, and just setting them on fire any way you can. Unfortunately, a whole host of issues prevent the game from achieving its intended expansion of the franchise. Even though the game does give you more options in playing through it, the gameplay and controls make every aspect of this frustrating. The game won't let you hold any items without you levitating them in front of you, and this obviously alerts people that you're a bit weird. The AI is incomprehensible, and when people detect you, they might just run around panicking, but will eventually calm down as if nothing happened. A lot of the kills require you to go get your targets in very specific positions, such as lining up a pressure canister to fire at them. But levitating your weapons into place can be frustratingly difficult, and if you miss, you'll have to find another way to deal with them. It's also far too easy to accidentally have an item out or drag a body or item around with your mind powers, leading to people going into a panic before you can even drop them or put them away. Because kills can be done in a number of ways, they also lack the impact that they had in the first game. There, we got a gory cutscene that added a rewarding cinematic element to the game. In Lucius II, you often won't even see your dastardly crimes as you hide nearby. Probably the standout exception is setting up a dildo on a pressure valve to fire up the back end of a guy in the shower, and even this didn't work properly for me. Starting at the hospital, you'll make your way through the level, killing enemies and taking their keys to get through to the next level, which is another floor of the hospital. And again, kill people for keys and get through to another level of the hospital. This repeats for the first 5 levels, and since there are only 10 levels in the game, you're spending the first half of the game essentially playing the same setting over and over, doing the same thing of killing enemies for keys to move on. It quickly gets boring, particularly when it's so hard to do what you want with everything you interact with. In the second level, you'll have the objective of breaking into the maternity ward and planting the seeds of evil in the minds of some newborn babies, as you do, the names of which flash up on screen as Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Jane Gump, aka Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs. Was Lucius the cause of Hollywood's most notorious horror film villains? Are they all just a part of the Lucius cinematic universe? Oh, and also the last baby is real-life serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, just to really drive home the point that Lucius is, the root of all evil, I suppose. As you fight to the bottom floor, both against the nurses and the god-awful controls, you'll gain experience for every kill that you make, which you can also put into gaining new powers. These include familiar powers from the first game, such as telekinesis and mind control, as well as new powers such as burning the bodies of enemies. The problem here is that the controls for these are, again, unwieldy, and even suck out the fun of levitating a fire axe through somebody's torso. The branching skill tree also means you'll only unlock a few of the powers per playthrough, unless you grind out XP by killing everyone you find, rather than just the main targets, but I did not feel like doing any more in this game than I had to. On your way down, you'll learn that another son of Lucifer, Isaac, is attempting to kickstart the apocalypse and become Lucifer's chosen child. You leave the hospital where MacGuffin is there to pick you up and drive the plot forward. Classic MacGuffin. The second half of the game takes place in the small town of Ludlow, where Isaac is causing terror. You first end up on the streets of Ludlow, where you can go around the different shops, and it makes a nice change from the endless hospital corridors. You next have to initiate the signs of the rapture before Isaac can initiate them all, going to the local water treatment plant to poison the water supply. These levels introduce a bunch of nuisance puzzles, including completing a circuit by spilling water to power a door, again made more awkward by the horrid controls. Eventually, after releasing some locusts to fulfill another sign of the rapture, you'll come across Isaac torturing some townsfolk like the sane, rational person he is, and you'll have to sneak up behind him and defeat the son of the devil by throwing some salt at him. Yeah, that'll show him. Returning back to Ludlow, you'll find that Isaac did not die from the salt at all, so you'll have to remedy that problem by picking up a shotgun and shooting him full of more salt. Nice. Upon confirming that you are indeed the greatest of Lucifer's children, your father hands you a scroll with 7 seals on that are to be unlocked through more of your actions, as MacGuffin hijacks a bus and you can ride out of town, but the next steps are for the sequel. Until then, you can take up the developers during the credit sequence who are also riding on the bus. Very nice to offer themselves as targets after playing through this game. Lucius II clearly takes on board what people wanted from a sequel to the 2012 game in opening it up to a more open-world setting and giving you the freedom to set up your own kills. Unfortunately, the game fails to implement it in a way that is actually fun to play. In the first game, although it was very linear, you at least got a unique, rewarding death scene that drove the plot forward, and every death mattered. In Lucius II, everyone is just a nondescript NPC whose poor AI you have to trick into traps or the like, and it gets repetitive very quickly. I don't want to be too hard on an indie game, however reception for this game gained a consensus that it failed to match up to the original, something the developers themselves seem to acknowledge. The next game was not actually the sequel, but an 8-bit demake of the first game called Lucius Demake, released in 2016. It fulfills its title's promise by being a very faithful rendition of the original game in classic pixel graphics, retaining all of the story, characters and dialogue, alongside stills that capture the gory nature of the kills. New to the game is an additional hint system used by interacting with the stuffed bear that you'll usually find by your intended target, which help remind you of the controls and stop you getting lost. The demake also removes the meters for your powers, which makes sense in that this isn't the type of game where your powers needed to be limited. It's more about working out the solution than the timing. The final boss is slightly more straightforward as well, as it has you avoiding the chants of the priests, denoted by streams of musical notes, and setting them on fire, before confronting Charles Wagner once again. Overall, this is a much more smooth experience than the original, while still retaining the entirety of the content. If you've played the original, you won't find any surprises here, and the solutions are all exactly the same, so you can run through it very easily. The conclusion to the Lucius trilogy was released in 2018. Lucius III picks up right where the second game left off, with MacGuffin and Lucius on the bus out of town, when they are forced off the road and crash in a ditch. They make their way back to their hometown over some cliffs and stumble upon a house party, which introduces you to the residents of the town, including the bratty kid that you can scar for life by exploding a raven with your telekinetic powers and covering him in blood. Nice. Back at MacGuffin's home, you set about preparing to unlock the seals on the scroll you got at the end of the second game. Learning you need to kill the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, you set out to explore the town and gather clues about who fits the description of the horsemen and how to bring them to a bloody end. Clearly taking feedback from Lucius II into account, Lucius III takes a different approach to incorporating an open world, while also making the kills more events that you have to investigate, plan, and ultimately execute. After the intro, you're basically given free rein to explore the town and its residents as you try to work out who your target is and how to deal with them. Aside from the main targets, you can also deal with other residents of the town as side quests. A lot of the town's population are not very nice, and you won't feel bad about dealing with them, including the abusive husband, the bratty kid from earlier, his father who seems to be very interested in you, and the sleazy motel owner. There's a fair amount to explore in the town, and you can fast travel around by exploding ravens and taking their hearts, using them to turn yourself into a raven and fly around. Or you can just use the map to fast travel, but that's not quite as fun, is it? As you hunt down the 4 horsemen, you'll set them up on a carousel as MacGuffin just so happens to live next to an abandoned theme park. He truly lives up to his namesake, making a truly horrible display of death, lacking in subtlety just as you've come to expect from the franchise. Along the way, you'll come across Gabriel, a strange angel, man, who seems to know what you're up to, and tries to convince you to leave the devil behind. Yep, subtlety, housebrick. We also dive into MacGuffin's past a little, as we learn that his wife and young son, who coincidentally was the same age as Lucius, were killed in a car crash years ago. Once you kill the 4 horsemen and, mount them, the game quickly proceeds to the endgame, forcing a more linear experience as the final 3 seals are rushed through. Lucifer betrays Lucius as the rapture starts, and you head back to the ruins of Dante Manor to find a knife capable of killing Lucifer, the setting of the first game. MacGuffin is killed by Lucifer rather suddenly, offering no real conclusion to his character and truly fulfilling his role as a MacGuffin. You find the back door into Hell in the Pet Cemetery, descend into Hell to confront the devil, where once again we get a kind of boss battle. In keeping with the rest of the games, this is very janky and broken, even though all you do is jump on 3 different platforms to reach the devil and stab him in the back. Each jump throws you out into the air and snaps you onto the next platform if you're within range. For some reason, I could not make the jump from the 2nd to the 3rd platform, as it always threw me off into the abyss below. After about half an hour of playing, I managed to work out that this was caused by me playing with a controller, and I did it first try when using a keyboard instead. Anyway, make it to the platform and stab Lucifer with the knife to put an end to him, and claiming your place as King of Hell, until Gabriel appears and offers you a choice to go to heaven instead and be reunited with your mother. Whichever ending you take, all it does is change this last scene, and no other actions in the game affect it, so just choose whatever you want, I suppose. Lucius III makes huge strides in doing what Lucius II tried to do, an open world game which gives you a choice in what to do, while also giving you significant set pieces and kills that drive the game forward. The graphics are alright for the time it released, and the game flows smoothly enough despite some iffy story points, bringing the trilogy to a adequate conclusion, I guess. The Lucius trilogy is an unashamed mishmash of references and homages to the horror genre in all its forms. Despite being produced by a small indie games developer, the game delivers a fair amount, but are plagued by poor controls and incorporating elements that don't work well within the gameplay, such as stealth sections and boss battles. It's difficult to pick a best game in the series since they all do slightly separate things. The first game offers a tighter experience, and its straightforwardness makes it a short but memorable ride. Lucius II offers not much. The Lucius Demake offers an even smoother experience than the original in some respects, but the whole 8-bit aesthetic might not appeal to everyone. Lucius III offers a balanced experience between puzzle solving, set pieces, and open world roaming, but maybe doesn't hit the heights of the original's charm, and doesn't compare to other open world games in the genre. Overall though, the series never achieves anything too special, but horror fans might get a kick out of it in its various forms. Thanks for checking out this video game Odyssey for Lucius. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel, it really helps. You can also check out my Twitch channel, where I play through all the games featured in these videos live, and check out the playthroughs of these games there. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.